guess the intro is just not going to play today. Like, I don't. Welcome in, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. Got the Philly sports guy in the house. WrestleMania happened, and we got somebody smarter than us joining us today. How's it going, Bobby?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
What's up, Bobby?
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah, it's funny. I was told the other day, and we have done lots of stuff here at Dolan's because we're getting ready for Delco Day. So they decided to do a whole bunch of wrestling stuff, which is the only reason why I even knew WrestleMania occurred. Last year, it was so much more hype because it was in Philly.
Right.
And now this year, it was like a dud.
Yeah.
And after listening to what you had to say about it, it sounded like it really was a dud. Was it really as uneventful as it sounded? And and then I got a lot more questions because of it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the reason I think it was so, like, in a lot of people's minds, it was mid or like not as good as it normally is because the level that last year's was like one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time, and then comparing it from last year to this year, it was like night and day. The matches weren't as good. The storylines felt mediocre. A lot of the matches felt like they were rushed. Like, if you actually, like, I watched every single match, and it seemed like a lot of the finishes to the matches were like rushed, like not dramatic at all, like they should be. The night one was okay. The whole show was okay until the main event. The main event was like the best match of the whole WrestleMania on both nights. John Cena winning the title on Sunday was anticlimactic because he still has a lot of fans and people who want to see him win, but he's a bad guy now. So him winning was good and bad. And see, people are saying it was a joke because it was. The ending was terrible. The whole reason that John Cena had been getting booed for the last 15 years of his career was because nobody likes how should I put this nicely? A goody two shoes that never does anything wrong, that always likes to do the right thing and play within the rules. And then last night, Cody Rhodes had the opportunity to hit Cena with the belt while the ref was still knocked out. And remember, Cena's the bad guy, so everyone would have went crazy if Cody Rhodes would have taken the opportunity to cheat and hit Cena with the title, but then he had a conscience or whatever and couldn't do it and put the belt down, and that's what cost him the match. And that's what caused a lot of people to boo and dislike the match.
Doesn't it seem like, first off, I mean, I understand that the acting that goes into this is pretty involved, but I watched a clip of the end of the match. I mean, I didn't watch any of the match whatsoever, but I watched the clip and I'm sitting there, he's like, oh yeah, don't do it. Which, first off, I mean, it's like, it seemed so unrealistic to me anyways, because it's like, hey, they didn't even look like they put up much of a sweat. I mean, was the match a lot better than that? Because the way that I saw the clip and it end was like, oh, he hits him with the belt and now he's passed out and he of course wins and he gets it for the 17th time. Half is cheering, half is booing, and I'm like, I understand why they did it for a 17th time, because ultimately by him becoming the all-time, you're just waiting for the next time that somebody's going to be able to beat that 17-time world championships. So it's I didn't get the storyline, I guess, from the beginning. I guess it was like, even from going to Raw right after WrestleMania last year And him saying, and now our story has begun, the whole Rock versus him, but the Rock's an actor anymore. He's not going to be able to do some of the things that he did before. John Cena is about to go that route now too, so he's not going to be as available for this. And ultimately, was this just a way to be able to say, hey, we got to get Cody Rhodes more followers here to be able to get it hyped up to win the title back again?
Kind of, because it goes back to what I was saying about how the fans have started to turn on Cody Rhodes because he's doing this. The wrestling term is a white meat babyface, where he's just like a typical good guy, kissing babies, shaking hands with everybody, doing the good thing like Hogan did back in the 80s. And that was getting really old. So what I think WWE did was back on March 1st at a pay-per-view called The Elimination Chamber, they made John Cena turn into a bad guy and join sides with The Rock, who ever since last year's WrestleMania has been trying to slowly but surely plot to get the title off of Cody, because he was mad that Cody beat Roman, his cousin. So John Cena, I believe, was turned into a bad guy to go against Cody because WWE felt that by Cody having to go against Cena, it would make Cody even a bigger good guy, because now he's facing the guy that just broke every kid's hero, that a guy that broke every kid's dreams, that John Cena was the guy that all the kids looked up to, every kid wanted to be their role model, and he just turned their backs on them. So by doing that, I believe WWE thought that Cody was going to be even a bigger star, a bigger good guy, and the kids were going to turn and love Cody more. But what WWE forgot to factor in is the fact that John Cena has had loyal, lifelong, 20-plus year fans that no matter what he does, they're always going to cheer for him. And because of that, this match turned into I hate to say it, but it turned into an average match at best, because a majority of the crowd did not want to boo John Cena. No matter if he low blows people, he cusses the crowd out, he does everything you could to make people hate him. There's a good majority of WWE fans that are never going to dislike John Cena. So it actually backfired, and now Cody is getting booed. I don't know if you heard, but in that clip, Cody was actually getting booed now. Cody Rhodes is starting to get booed, which is not what WWE wants at all. So now I'm interested to see what they're going to do going forward to try to get the crowd back on Cody's side and have them boo Cena more. But as I said, that's a difficult task, considering all of the kids that grew up watching their hero John Cena be the dominant wrestler that he has been in WWE for 20 years. Not to mention the fact that the buildup to the WrestleMania was not so good because of what you just said. Cena is an actor. So Cena is out having his own schedule filming movies. So he wasn't around week after week to build up the match, the hype for the match. And he only showed up like 5 or 6 times, I think, in the last 3 months to build this match up. So that's another reason why the match couldn't have been as special as it could have been.
So that this brings me to my question on was this how do I put this, lazy writing by Triple H, that this comes out to, hey, this is a tried and true story. As somebody turns heel is going to beat up the good guy, and good guy's ultimately going to prevail. And because of that, I mean, I kind of felt like, listen, again, the reason why they needed to have Cena win this is because he needs to be the all-time 17-time world champion. It's like, okay, now you've got the 17th time. It's going to take a minute for somebody to get to the point of 17 times. That gives you enough years to go out and make your money doing movies. And then when it's time for you to come back in a couple years to figure out whether we're going to make you the 18-time world champion or not, you're going to be able to do this. Because interestingly enough, I've watched a couple of John Cena movies just recently because I happen to, obviously they're showing a lot on Prime and stuff like that right now. And I tell you, he ain't about to win any Oscars anytime soon. So,
No.
I mean, that's not the kind of roles he gets either. So
I mean, if I'm being honest, I am a fan of a couple of his movies. My favorite one that he's been in, I don't know if you ever seen it. It's on HBO. It's called Peacemaker, where he plays like a superhero, but he's actually a bad guy, but he doesn't realize that he's doing bad things. It's really good. You should check it out. It's
All
very
right.
nice. But yeah, I would say that this was lazy writing just because this kind of end result where the bad guy won at the main event of WrestleMania is not the typical thing that happens. Normally, one of the true and tried stories and ideas that WWE does is when the good guy wins at WrestleMania. The bad guys can win at pay-per-views other than WrestleMania, but when you're at the show of shows and it's your biggest show of the year, most of the time you want the people to end up being happy when it comes to the end of your biggest show, WrestleMania. Like if they would have done this exact thing, but it was like at the Royal Rumble or at, I don't know, the Elimination Chamber or at SummerSlam or something like that, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with it. But the fact that it was at WrestleMania, it was John Cena's last WrestleMania, and the way they did it, it was just lazy writing because Triple H was just giving people what they wanted, which he initially thought was Cody going over. But as the weeks went on and people were booing Cody week after week after week, I feel like that's why they just had to give it to Cena because, like you said, the 17th now he's the greatest ever. But you have to, when you still have when there were 63,000 people in that stadium, and about 40,000 of them were booing Cody Rhodes last night. So that's not good odds when you're trying to push Cody as the good guy, and you got fans cheering for the bad dude. Plus, Travis Scott entering into the main event of WrestleMania, the rapper Travis Scott, and he was the difference maker between Cena winning the match or Cody winning. That's a little ridiculous. People were expecting The Rock to come out, which I completely understood and would have made sense. And I think because it was Travis Scott, a guy who's not even a wrestler, that's what pisses people off because we want to see the wrestlers. We don't care about musicians when it comes to wrestling. We don't want them involved. We just want to have it between the wrestlers. That's it.
Right. That should be the sideshow that happens at the beginning of WrestleMania 1, like it's of the first day of WrestleMania, where it's, hey, you're gonna have a rapper come in and get involved. It would be the same thing as like having Jason Kelsey come out and Lane Johnson and stuff
Right.
like that. That's you get that same type of situation. That's what the rapper is at the end of the thing. Like I said, you're right. There's a piece of me that thinks that it would have been a lot better had they made the type of match a very specific type of match, and neither one of them won. Somebody comes out of there, like Roman Reigns comes out and happens to do like a body slam, like some type of thing where he was able to knock both of them out and kind of pin them both. And he was never even supposed to be in the match. Now all of a sudden he wound up winning the championship, which would be a little ridiculous, but a little bit better of a friggin' story, I think, even almost.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have had some kind of stipulation to the match, I mean, it probably would have been better. But the way that the match played out, not to mention, Cena is about to be, I believe he's close to 50. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's in his late 40s, give or take. And the fact that he is still trying to be in the main event of WrestleMania is crazy because he can't have the kind of match that he was able to have, 10 to 15 years ago, even if he wanted to. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard for him to bump around the ring. It's hard for him to do certain moves over and over again. So it kind of put the match at a lower level than it could have been had this match happened 10 years ago, if that makes sense. It's like we get it. Cena's a bad guy, so he was trying to disappoint the crowd by having a bad match, but it's also a double-edged sword because now the crowd's going to be pissed off that the match itself, the story and the match wasn't as good as it could have been.
So that being said, how does the story move forward here? If this is ultimately, I mean, I know they're saying that this was Cena's last WrestleMania, and I don't believe that for a second. You know what I mean? It's just it's going to be another WrestleMania, probably 45 when he finally comes back and does those things. That it's never really your last one. You never really retire from this business. That
Right.
being said, how does it go forward now? Like, what kind of storyline? Because
Hallmark is proven. Hallmark is proven you don't ever have to move the storyline forward. They have 500 movies with the exact same plot.
exactly.
Right.
But
Right. Well,
obviously, he's
oh,
got a championship belt right now that he's not going to be able to keep because he's got to go make a movie.
right. Right. Well, the thing is, I think he was advertised to be at Backlash, which is the next pay per view. I believe it's the second week of May. It's called Backlash. Now, the rumor going around is that Backlash is in St. It's going to be in St. Louis, Missouri. That's not a rumor. It's going to be in St. Louis, Missouri. So what people are thinking is St. Louis is where Randy Orton is from. So Randy Orton and John Cena have been rivals for good God, maybe 15 years, 20 years, like a very long time. It's one of Cena's biggest rivals. So what a lot of people are thinking is that tonight, I'm sorry, I forgot it's Monday. Tonight on Raw, Cena is going to come out, do his, bad guy heel thing. He's going to, say some stuff, whatever. And then what a lot of people think is that Randy Orton is going to come out and start a program with him to set up the match in Orton's hometown of Backlash, which then they would have Cena win in Orton's hometown and beat Orton in St. Louis, which then in WWE's mind would give Cena more heat, more the crowd would boo him even more because now he just beat up on the hometown boy. Does that you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
But
so that's where they think it's gonna go.
I, I just listening to this, listening to what you think in terms of that type of stuff, I don't see how that even works. Because again, you have loyalists, and it's the loyalists that are causing the issue. The loyalists are being louder than the mass. And when I think of that, and I think obviously John Cena has been around for a long time. We've been watching him wrestle now for what, going on 20 some years. I would
Right.
feel. So him, like I said, it's going to be tough for anybody to come out and be like, oh, you know what? All of a sudden, I'm going to not like John Cena. He's going to be a heel. And even as he acts a little bit like the heel, it doesn't even feel real to me. You know what I mean? It feels like it's being very acted upon. So, I mean, the truth of the matter is that now that he's won it again, it doesn't matter whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. I feel like that it's like I would almost go back to being the good guy because who cares? Obviously the story played out now. I won the championship again. I'm back to being I'm back to being John Cena, which I think actually has a better story because now it's like, hey, I flip-flopped. I got to do whatever I wanted to do to win the championship. I'm the 17-time all-time champion now. I feel like that might make people turn more because he's flip-flopping.
Right. And I get what you're saying. It's just in wrestling there's this thing where if you flip-flop too many times, then the crowd is going to give you this kind of heat where in wrestling they say it's go away heat, which is where the fans start chanting for them to retire. Like I don't know if you've ever heard, but there's like chants in the crowd sometimes with older guys when they get boring where the crowd goes, "Please retire," and then they start chanting that. And if you keep flip flopping and confusing the crowd, that's what's going to end up happening. I get what you mean. I do. But I just think right now, with them trying to push him really good or really bad as a bad guy, there's just no way for him to go back to a good guy. And like I was saying, the reason I think the math isn't following the storyline like WWE wants them and cheering Cody is because WWE is not learning from the mistakes they made with John Cena 15 years ago. Cody Rhodes was basically John Cena 2.0, the John Cena of the 2020s. The people who didn't like John Cena back in 2010, 2011 are the same people now that are still watching that are now booing Cody because he's doing the same crap, boring good guy, always doing the right thing crap. And what I think they need to do is I think they need to give Cody a little more edge to him. You know what I mean? Like a killer instinct. Like still be a good guy. Like beat up the bad guys, but do whatever it takes to beat up the bad guys. Don't always play by the rules. Don't always, make sure everyone is okay. Make like beat up Travis Scott. Like Travis Scott got one move used on him last night. Hit him with a chair or something. Like do something like you know what I mean, like show that you have an in, like you're a human being, because there's not a lot of people out there that are always following the rules and this, that, and the third. Like that's boring to watch, and that's why Cody's getting booed out of the arenas. if they would just give him more of an angle with his character, I feel like that could help this story go a long way.
All right. So, I mean, ultimately, I guess we're going to find out here sooner than later because I got to imagine Cody's got to show up tonight too, right? Like he's going to have to show up in some capacity. It's like to just
Yeah.
to be able to further where he's at the story. Because I mean, ultimately, I mean, you have Cena come out there. I mean, even if you have Randy Orton come out, or I mean, if they all come out, like because even The Rock has got to come out tonight and be like, yeah, we did what we were supposed to do. Yeah, high five, and go on and stuff like that. I don't know. I just feel like there was so much, and I agree that 40. There was so much leading up to 40 that it the story kind of told itself. It was you were able to turn the pages easy on it because it told itself. Now, because of that, you run into all right, now what? Now what? So ultimately, I feel like that they have to do a big turnaround in some way, shape, or form to get the story to be interesting again. I feel like
Right.
that's part of the problem. The story's not interesting.
Or
That
do they
this
just
is
lean into the women's side here?
so,
Oh,
which we go.
the Becky Lynch return. Oh yeah, well, the Becky Lynch return. I'm sorry, just going off that comment that just showed up. The Becky Lynch return was good and bad because Becky Lynch is probably the most over women's wrestler on the entire roster. Like she is loved by fans, but the issue is. I don't know if you guys heard about this. WWE waited until the night of WrestleMania to tell the Lyra Valkyria, she was originally supposed to be on a team with her and Bailey against Liv Morgan and Raquel for the women's tag titles. They told Bailey on the night of WrestleMania or the night before that Becky Lynch was going to come back and that she was getting replaced. And there's no injury. She's not hurt. There's nothing. She's not getting let go or anything like that. But they just booked her out of WrestleMania. They kicked her out of WrestleMania like that when Bailey's been there for the last year, give or take, week after week. And they just kicked her off of WrestleMania just like that because of Becky Lynch, who hasn't been there. Granted, she was raising a daughter, but still, I just think it was a great return, but when you know the backstory, that's kind of messed up in my eyes.
So and brings me to another point. Is there real turmoil happening in the executive portion of WWE right now? It seems like since Vince is gone. And Vince was the great storyteller. I feel like amongst you can say whatever you want about however he was as personal, all that stuff. He was the great storyteller, and now you've got some lazy storylines here. And I feel like you're somebody who loves wrestling, and it's like you understand it. I listen to you talk about it all the time, and I got to imagine that even you got to feel that this is like that even the lesser storylines are not living up to anything worthwhile. There's nothing pushing this soap opera, right?
Yes and no. Honestly, Jamie, yes and no, because you're right in terms of Vince was a good storyteller up until about I would say about 2012, 2013. And the reason I say that is because Vince McMahon, one of his biggest issues is that he is very, and I mean very selfish and very stubborn. And I'm not just saying that. That's a proven fact. Anybody who knows that. He's a very stubborn dude. So if he liked a wrestler, right? He loved the one particular wrestler, but the fans hated the wrestler and hated everything about the wrestler and didn't like anything about him, Vince McMahon would not listen to the crowd. And Vince McMahon would go and tell people, the executive board, I don't care. I know this will work. I like him, blah, 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 blah. And that is what made the crowd turn against WWE towards the end of Vince McMahon's run. One of the people, actually, if you I don't know if you were watching, but in 2014, give or take 2015, Roman Reigns was being shoved down everyone's throat in terms of Vince McMahon was booking him to win every match, win every title, dominate his opponents. He was winning the Royal Rumble, and the crowd, because they sensed that Vince McMahon was doing that, booed Roman out of the building night after night. I was there. I was going to those shows back then. He was getting booed, cussed at, thrown. People were throwing trash at him. I mean, it was terrible. Like he was, and it was because Vince McMahon couldn't admit that maybe the fans at that time just weren't into Roman Reigns. The fans were into a guy named Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was not being allowed to win, even though he was getting the most cheers week after week. And Vince was just like, no, no, we got to push Roman. We got to push Roman. And he kept doing that year after year after year until he left like a couple years ago. And I feel like ever since then, at least the people who the crowd actually enjoy watching are the ones getting the pushes and not the guys that Triple H isn't saying, hey, crowd fans, you have to like this guy. We're going to book him. Great. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And if you don't like him, tough. Because that's what Vince was doing. That's the only thing I would say about Vince. Other than that, yeah, he was good for a majority of his run. Yes.
But I think that's what made Vince. I'm sorry, Bo.
No,
Yeah.
you're good.
I think that's what made Vince such a polarizing guy. Is that he needed to play heel a half the time. You know what I mean? He also needed to play good guy a portion of the time. And it's when I think of wrestling, and I think of the storylines that go to wrestling, and it's like I always think of a soap opera, and yeah, it's got to have a very soap opera-y feel, that you need the drama that goes along
Right.
with this. And I feel that him doing some of that, like understanding exactly, because I couldn't stand Roman Reigns back then either, and I was watching and stuff like that. I do remember the guy that you're talking about, but ultimately by getting him forced down your throat, eventually they did turn and follow his plan anyways. It was after he was gone, but they did follow exactly what he wanted him to do. And you could say that in the process of that's also part of the the way that his story had to go in the first place. I got to imagine now. I'm gonna switch it up because I don't want to talk about the negative. What was some of the positives that came out of WrestleMania? What were some of the things that you look forward to on storylines rather than talking about Cena's
I mean, the
Cena's
way
not
that
gonna
the
get
way
it.
the first half sounded. Thanks for coming on.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. No, I cannot wait to see what happens. If you watch the main event of night one, the triple threat match with Seth, with Rollins, Reigns, and CM Punk, that was the greatest. That was the greatest main event. It made up for a lot of the crap that was on the show. The triple threat match where Paul Heyman turned on, not only did he turn on his best friend CM Punk, but then he turned on his tribal chief Roman Reigns, low blowed both of them to give Seth Rollins the chair and allowed Seth Rollins to win that match. The storytelling that went into that match was unbelievably good. And then the storytelling in the match was unbelievably awesome. That I cannot wait to see how that plays out. It's going to keep, if you want to watch, if keep an eye on a storyline, keep your eye on that because CM Punk and Roman are going to be absolutely pissed at Seth tonight, and I don't know if they're on tonight or Friday, but either way, they are going to be pissed. And I can't wait to see what they do with this because now Roman doesn't have his wise man. Punk lost his best friend. And now Seth Rollins has Paul Heyman as his manager. So hopefully that pushes Seth Rollins back into the world title picture. And who knows, maybe he's Jey Uso's first opponent now that Jey Uso, who won the world title on night one, maybe Seth is going to be his first challenger. And maybe Seth wins it from him. Maybe not. Maybe they wait till SummerSlam. I don't know. But it's going to be great. Jey Uso winning the world title was also incredible. The crowd exploded. Even my own son loves Jey Uso. When Jey Uso comes on the TV, my son knows how to do the yeet and the crowd with their arms. He loves it. It's the greatest thing. My son's only 3 and he loves it. It's his favorite thing to do. So him winning was awesome. It was the total right call. Yeah, those were the 2 things that I would say were the most awesome things to watch at WrestleMania this past weekend.
Well, and especially like those three are always really talked about more frequently than a lot of the. It seems like that storyline made a lot more sense, and the fact that a title's not involved in that, it does it almost seem like that makes it better?
Yes, because now it's more storyline driven. Like this proves that when you have three outstanding superstars like Punk, Roman, and Rollins, you don't need to have a title involved for them to be able to tell an outstanding story. You know that does that make sense? Like just because there's no title involved, that doesn't mean that there's no way to tell a good story. That doesn't mean they're not fighting for anything. They were fighting for their pride. They were fighting for the direction of WWE. They were fighting for who was right, who was wrong. All three of them had great points in all the promos leading up to the match leading up to WrestleMania. All three made great points, and it was just unbelievable the way they were able to tell the story. It made it that much better that there was no title, because it was like, who needs it? Who really needs it? And the fact that it was such a big story that it ended up being the main event of a WrestleMania, unbelievable. It was just unbelievable.
And the fact that Paul Heyman wound up being the chick in the middle, like that was
Yeah,
actually, I mean, that's the best way I could explain it, but it was like that was, because I again watching the clips of that and seeing all that occur, I'm like, well, that was actually kind of cool. But again, the one thing that stood out to me, and not being a wrestling guy, but it was like there was no title to that, and it you could tell everybody's into it. Like that's obviously WrestleMania. Everybody's into it the moment that they're stepping foot into that building. So
right,
it's a whole different feel in general. Um, the city was electric last year, and I remember that feeling because it like you could almost say that started to spawn the electricity that happened with the Phillies, that moved to the Eagles, and culminated with a Super Bowl. So there was a lot that happened
right,
last year in comparison to this year, and again, you can only have the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Everything else is going to fall behind that.
right,
So
right.
figuring that you can only really do that once every 5 to 10 years makes sense to me. What other? I mean, obviously there was tons more matches than those two matches. What were some other matches that were really good that you were kind of excited to see? Obviously, you said you love your son is a big fan of the Yeet and stuff like that. And
It was awesome. The only thing I don't mean to go back to being negative. I really don't. I'll just say one more quick thing. I promise. Just one more quick thing. The only part of that Jey Uso match that a lot of people, including myself, didn't necessarily enjoy was the ending. Jey Uso jumped off the top rope, landed a splash, then he got Gunther in a sleeper hold, and literally Gunther tapped out within 3 seconds. 4 seconds of being put in the hold. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know if you ever seen those matches where like somebody gets put in a submission hold and then they hold it in for a long time, and then the person gets close to the rope, and then the other person doing the hold backs them up to the middle of the ring, and then eventually they tap out. It makes it more dramatic. You know what I
right,
mean? More
right.
dramatic. But this one, he got him in the sleeper hold, and then the guy tapped within 4 seconds. To me, that just kind of made it a little anticlimactic, if that makes sense. Like him winning, it would have made it bigger if the hold would have lasted longer.
That sounds like you might have put him in a real hold.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he actually locked it in. He's like, oh, never mind.
right. But yeah, probably no, probably. But anyway, going back to the positives, the Fatal 4-Way match for the Intercontinental title, where Dominic Mysterio won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, that was awesome. They have to turn him into a good guy now. There's just no way. The crowd reaction when he won, off the charts. The whole crowd was cheering for him, and he's supposed to be one of the biggest bad guys in the whole company. And the crowd went ballistic when he won. It was awesome. And I know in storyline, he hates his father, and he calls his father a deadbeat, this, that, and the third. But you just know Rey Mysterio was in the back after that match, and he was probably in tears, and he was so proud of his boy, and it was just knowing that in the back of my mind just made that whole match, that whole moment so awesome. I can't wait to see what they do with Dominic. He's got to turn into a good guy now. There's just no way they can keep him trying to get the crowd to boo him. There's just no way. He's so good at this. And sure, you can call it nepotism. You can call it nepotism. I don't care. It's Rey Mysterio's kid, yes, but he is just so naturally talented. I can't wait to see where that goes.
And listen, when you grow up when you grow up in an industry, and that's exactly what he did. He learned this from the very beginning, has been doing this really his entire life. I mean, he is bred for this position. You know what I mean? The fact that he is a bad guy and the fact that they still love him like that makes me wonder, why would you change him? Keep him as a bad guy because they love him as a bad guy. You know,
Yeah. No, yeah, no, I get it. That's true. That is a good point. It's a good point. It's just WWE has this thing where if you're a bad guy, they do this all the time. If you are supposed to be a bad guy, but you have the entire crowd cheering for you, inevitably it's a good and a bad thing because in WWE's eyes, they see it as okay, you're doing a great job and you're getting over with the crowd. But also now you might be getting too over because as a bad guy, you're supposed to be getting booed. The way they determine if you're a good bad guy is if you're getting booed out of the arena, you can't even talk without people booing you. You're getting booed you're getting death. I mean, it's not good to have death threats, but I'm saying if the crowd is like giving you death threats, stuff like that, that's when you're a good bad guy. But when you're getting cheered instead of booed, it makes WWE think maybe we should make him into a good guy so that now that the cheers are happening, we can what do you call you know build off of the cheers. That's what I was trying to think. Build off of those cheers and make you even more popular. Because a lot of times when a good guy turns into a bad guy, it's because the crowd got sick of them as a good guy. Does that make sense? So they turn
right.
into a bad guy. But then once they do a great job as a bad guy, now the crowd loves them again and is behind them. Now they go back to a good guy most of the time. That's how that works. So that's
So,
why there's more than likely he's going to change.
Well, and
and
that's more or less what Jamie was talking about earlier, was turning Cena back into a good guy.
because I mean, I only reason why I say the flip flop of the flip flop is because he's got to retire right now. So what's the point? Like it almost makes sense that that's what he would kind of do, especially because of the reaction that happened last night. Like I said, it seemed like that there were more cheers than boos,
That's right.
and
Vader's aura changed after he died.
yeah, so it's there's a lot that I kind of feel like happens with this. I love the lesser storylines. I loved the intercontinental titles. I
Hmm.
loved when it's the tag team titles and stuff like that, and those lesser cards because the main cards were always too big. I almost felt like it's
Yeah.
too hard to keep that main story going, and I felt like that you could tell almost right away that there wasn't a good enough storyline, that they didn't have a good enough storyline after Cody won. It was like that the high was way too high to be able to, and there's no story that could start right now when you're at the top of the mountain like that, that's going to bring it down to a realistic level without there being a tumble of some sort. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the other thing too. And look, I don't want to take all the time because I could go on like an hour long rant on that.
This show
But
is all about you.
This is
This
what
is
it
your
is.
show today. That's why I brought you on. We
Yep.
wanted to talk about WrestleMania.
Yeah, so you're good.
Everybody
You're
is talking about this right now in the chat. That's what you're here for. So yes, I want you to talk about this. This is you.
because let me because here's the problem. The great build because they did an outstanding job. WWE did an outstanding job building up everything when it came to WrestleMania 40, last year's WrestleMania, building up Cody against Roman, how they made Rock a bad guy. Everything they did to promote that was so great. But the issue is you got yourself another double-edged sword, or as in wrestling they say they booked themselves into a corner, which means they booked him to look so strong. And then when he did win the title against Roman, there was nobody else realistically in the company that looked big enough or strong enough or over enough to actually take the title from him. So basically, for a year before last night, you never going into every title defense that Cody had against anybody, you never actually thought that Cody Rhodes was going to lose the title. Do you know what I mean? Like that doesn't make it was hard for WWE to make it seem like, oh, this person might beat him. This person might be able to beat him. This person, because all the crowd knew that Cody was going to lose or was going to lose to somebody. It had to be somebody massive like a John Cena or Randy Orton or something like that. So all of these things where, he faced AJ Styles. AJ Styles is at the end of his career. He wasn't going to beat him. He faced Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa wasn't going to beat him because Solo Sikoa is how should I put this? Not as good as people are making him out to be, in my eyes. You got who else did he face? He faced oh boy, goodness, I'm drawing a blank. He had other matches, but the point is he was facing all these dudes that nobody realistically thought. Oh, he faced Kevin Owens. He faced Kevin Owens. Nobody thought Kevin Owens was going to beat him because Kevin Owens before that wasn't getting pushed as a main event guy. So until John Cena, there was never like, oh man, Cody, you're going to have a challenge against this guy. No, because they did such a good job building him up to last year's WrestleMania that they didn't know what else to do with him, if that makes sense.
It does. So, but isn't it every once in a while worthwhile, especially when when you realize that you booked yourself into this corner, and you've made it to SummerSlam, which is what I assume happened after WrestleMania, and you ain't got anybody that's worthwhile. Isn't it almost worth it for somebody who's not supposed to win and doesn't to just win it, and then it become like a sprint to try to get to be the next person? Does that maybe play, or is that become again? Because I don't follow it as strongly, it could be considered lazy writing.
Yeah, that could be considered lazy writing, but that's also the reason why they brought back the other title, the World Heavyweight title, was because of the fact that WWE was anticipating that they would not be able to book anyone to look strong enough to beat Cody for that title. So they made a different world title. So now if somebody wins the Royal Rumble or somebody wants to cash in Money in the Bank, they can go after the other title, the World Heavyweight title. So it didn't how should I put this? It didn't make Cody's title look worthless by them beating him, and they weren't deserving of a match to begin with. Because in WWE, you have to be booked a certain way to look strong in order to be considered a championship contender. And if you're not booked that certain way and the crowd isn't loving you and the crowd is just like okay with you being there, nobody realistically thinks that you're going to be able to beat that champion for the title. And that's what WWE wants. They want people to believe that this challenger has a chance at beating Cody. But the way they made him look, the way they booked him in his matches, how he always seemed to win no matter what odds were put against him. I mean, there were times, Jamie, where he was taking like 4 or 5 finishers, going through tables, going through hardcore matches, falling off ladders, and still finding a way to win the match. And then you got other guys that get one chair shot and they not get knocked out for 10 seconds. That doesn't make you look like a championship contender when the champion is out here looking like King Kong and the rest of the guys are looking like, me. It's like it's not going to be a good story. So that's the
Right.
problem WWE has, is that they didn't have anybody else that was being booked as great as Cody was. And that's why they had to make that whole separate title. And how would it have looked if Jey Uso was the one that beat Cody at WrestleMania if there wasn't that other world title for him to win? That would have been, oh my God, the crowd would have hated that.
Right. Well, but now it's like you keep making all of these different title belts that, hey, we got the World Championship, we got the Universal Championship, we got like the Intercontinental Championship. It's like, I mean, I understand that you need to have the belt to be able to kind of push a story. I feel like, hey, we're going to go after this belt and this is that storyline. And it's like, this is the medium story, the upper tier story, and then the high end story. And it's, I feel like now that he's lost, and he kind of got half booed out of the arena after the loss in the process of this, like, does he turn bad guy? I mean, does that makes the perfect sense now? Like for Cena was still loved. He's already got half the crowd on the good guy. Why wouldn't it make sense to be like, hey, I was the nightmare. I was too much of a nice guy, and now I'm going to play half heel, I guess. I mean, you got 2 half heels is kind of what it is. And
Yeah.
they could almost play off of each other. I mean, I'm not doing the writing, so I can't be the one that says this, but I got to imagine that some of this is going to be found out tonight because you got to come up with a story pretty quickly. And it seems like that the story that they may have had going into last night to try to figure out how they're going to go afterwards doesn't play as well.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm so interested to see this Monday Night Raw, because this show is gonna have to do a lot of explaining, a lot of storytelling. They're gonna have to figure something out because, like you said, you're exactly right. What are they gonna do now with half the crowd booing Cody Rhodes, who is supposed to be the superhero? He's supposed to be Superman, and he's getting, three-quarters of the crowd is booing him out of the building. So I'm interested to see what direction they go. Honestly, off the top of my head, even thinking about it, I can't think of a logical writing direction for them to go in for him to still look like the good guy, but also for the crowd to start cheering him again. I it's hard because like you said, the John Cena loyalists, those little kids in the crowd, and even even those 25, 26 year olds who are still watching wrestling, been watching wrestling their whole life, their hero growing up was John Cena. So even the people who are adults now are cheering Cena, and it's hard to get people. One of the worst traits about a lot of people nowadays is their stubbornness. So once they're a fan of someone or something, they don't want to change unless you put a gun to their head, metaphorically.
Right.
And it's just like, and it's just it's hard, and that's the task that these writers are going to have now in WWE, because now it's like, man, how do we make Cody look like a contender again without having the crowd turn on him? Because that's where this is going, and I don't want to see it happen, because I've actually enjoyed Cody's run, and I don't want to see it go down like this, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, because I think first off, you're calling yourself the American Nightmare, and there's nothing that's really nightmarish about you. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the nightmare is that you kept coming back and kept coming back and kept coming back, and then you go up against Cena and you get hit with that belt, which it looked like I said. I mean, he gets hit with the belt and you're out cold. That's what happened. That's you came back from all of these other things, and now you get smacked with the belt, and next thing you know, you're out cold and you lose the title. Just
Yeah.
almost, it didn't play. It just doesn't play.
That's
So
exactly it. I mean, you nailed it. That if they would have had like a big, massive like spot, like maybe Cena doing his finisher 4 times in a row, and then maybe The Rock comes out and does something to Cody where he hits him with like a something. You know what I mean? Like something. You can't just do one belt shot and then have him lose.
right, and that's what kind of gets me. I 100%. You know what I mean? I think I don't know. Me personally, I would start to have start to become the nightmare. Like that's how I would play the that game. But I don't
Right.
get to make that say. So
Right.
listen, I anything else that you have to say about that? Because I figure we'll take the last 10 minutes because it is draft week,
Oh,
and I
okay.
got to imagine you have an opinion about that too. So as you
Yeah.
can see, he is a Ravens fan.
Yep.
I made sure to go Birds. But I just to finish up with WrestleMania, if there was anything else that that you thought of that you want to kind of just comment on.
Well, I don't know. I just think that maybe they could have done a better job with overall the presentation of WrestleMania. It just felt like they cared more this year about cinema than they did about the wrestling. And I understand that WWE is leaning more towards an entertainment company now. I get that, but it is still World Wrestling Entertainment, and it's still supposed to be about the matches. And I don't think if you watched any of the matches in the last 2 nights, I don't think you could look at it and go on a scale of 1 to 10, any of these matches were more than like a 9.5, 9, maybe 9 at most. But if you're at WrestleMania and it is WrestleMania, you have to have at least one match where you can say, yeah, this is a 10. This is what I paid to see. This is what I want to see. This, that, and the third. And the only match I would give a 9 is that triple threat match on night one, the main event of night one. Uh, Everything else was eh. And I just feel like they cared more about the cinema than they did about the wrestling, and that's disappointing because you don't watch pro wrestling, WWE, just for like you said, like soap operas, cinemas. You don't watch it for that. You actually want to see wrestling too, and I think they missed that at this year's WrestleMania. That's just my last thing.
I can believe that. Yeah, that you can't just always worry about the storyline. You got to actually have. I mean, that's what it is. These guys are adult gymnasts that put their bodies on the line, and that's kind of what everybody is there to go see, and that's what makes that's what made 40 so amazing, was that
Right.
everybody was over the top. That was one of the best performances that has ever happened at a WrestleMania. So to go this like this, I feel like Vegasized it.
Exactly.
They
Yes.
Vegased
Nailed
it.
it.
You know what I
Nailed it.
mean?
Yes.
It's the Vegas is like it's such a cheap rendition of what it really could have been. So, and that's I get that, but anyways, the last 10 minutes. I know we would talk about this, and we could actually have Bo talk a little bit now because
Oh
he
yeah.
did whatever.
Yeah, well, I
But
mean, I got something to contribute to the wrestling end. No, that's why I said before the show, I was like, man, this is going to be the easiest light lifting show for me.
so you guys, obviously last year did not make
Oh
it
wow.
past. Yeah, he
I
was Seahawks.
I'm
We got three birds on the panel here. Look at
Right,
that.
Bird Gang, let's go.
Uh,
there you go. Okay.
so obviously, what are some of your thoughts going into this draft as a team that they need to have holes to fill, and who you want possibly for your first pick?
Well, first, can I just ask, hey, Bo, are you in Seattle right now?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't real. Okay. Okay. I was just wondering. I didn't know if that's where you were at.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like coast to coast.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Now that makes sense. Sorry. Right. Just went right over my head there. I got it. Got it. Okay.
That's okay.
but no, so I just think the Ravens this year, I really think they're going to go offensive lineman in the first round, if they even pick in the first round. There's a good chance that I think they're going to trade out of that pick just because they brought back, I would say, not all, but a majority of their team from this year or 2023 when they went to the conference championship game. And I think with just a little bit more help, instead of just like cutting a bunch of people and then starting from scratch at certain positions, like with draft picks, if you just get a little bit of depth, I feel like this team could go a long way. And I'm not just saying that as a fan, as a Ravens fan. I just think that if Lamar Jackson steps up his game a little bit in the postseason, and the rest of the team plays as good as they know they can, I feel like this would be a good draft to get probably a solid maybe right guard, maybe because they just paid their left tackle, so they don't need a blindside guy to protect Lamar, So I would say some kind of maybe right guard, maybe right tackle, is my guess as to where they go in the first round. But there's also a good chance they might use that draft pick and trade out of that spot and probably get someone or maybe more draft picks later on, because the Ravens are always good at drafting. Again, not being cocky, I'm just being honest. But so we'll see. I'm interested to see how this goes.
I mean, if you're
What
looking
pick
for a
do they
guard,
have?
though, you can get that in the second round and be fine.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I believe they're 27th. I want to say 27th or 26th, somewhere around there.
Okay, so yeah, so that's why, because I obviously picking 32nd. There, I'm looking at. There's two spots that I'm thinking about. I'm trying to get maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 19, 20, 21, and what that would take to try to get up into that spot in comparison to also being able to move back. If there was somebody that you thought that they would reach for and move up in the draft, is there any spots on the offense or defense that you feel needs addressing well enough that would possibly require or to get one of the guys that would be in the top 15 or so?
Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I don't want to make it seem like I know that much about college guys, because the one thing I really don't follow, I follow all major sports, but I just can't get into college football. And if that disappoints anybody, I'm sorry. I've never been able to get into it. I don't know why, but I'm not really familiar with any of the top 15 guys besides like Shador and the pass rusher from Penn State, or Cam Ward. I'm not really familiar with any of those, with anybody else. But if there was one position that I would say desperately the Ravens need to do something with, if any, is safety. Marcus Williams. Do you guys remember that play where Case Keenum with the Vikings threw that pass to Stephon Diggs in the playoffs, and then the guy missed
Oh
the
yeah.
tackle, the safety missed the tackle and ran it back and they won the game to face the Eagles in the conference championship?
I
Right.
remember.
That safety, the Ravens signed and gave him like $40 million. And he is absolutely pitiful. He is by far the worst safety in football. It's not even close. He is absolutely terrible. And the fact that the Ravens gave him that money is beyond me stupid. So if there was one position that I think the Ravens could really use an improvement in is free safety, because they have Kyle Hamilton at strong safety and he's an all pro. So I think if they can get another solid free safety on the other side of them, that could help that defense become even better, which is scary because the Ravens defense has been good for a very long time now.
I just want to see your team actually use your running back all the way through the playoffs.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but I mean, you have this mountain of a human, and then they're just like, oh, you know what? Every time we run him 16 carries or less, we lose. And then in the playoffs, you're like, you know what? We're going to ignore all of this tape that says we lose when we do this. And then, oh, we lost. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Like, we've watched you do it. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I still don't understand why they didn't run the ball in the conference championship game 2 years ago against Kansas City, where Kansas City had the second worst run defense in all of football, and they ran the ball 6 times. 6 designed run plays. How does that make any sense? And then last year, Buffalo's run defense was good, but not great. And it's not. How are they going to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar? And if you guys remember, the Ravens played Buffalo in Week 4 last year, where Derrick Henry went for like a $190 and 2 touchdowns, and all of a sudden they couldn't do it. Like, I agree. John Harbaugh sometimes annoys me to tears because he just doesn't do anything about it. Like, if you see that the offensive coordinator is not calling runs, do something about it. You're the coach. Change the play. Do something. It's so annoying. So I completely agree.
What was wild about that is he wasn't even on the field for part of them. No injury or anything. He just wasn't even out there. I mean, you got to at least give them the thought that you could run.
Right. No, exactly. They had what's his name? Justice Hill in the game, and everyone knows he is the pass catching back. So when he's in the game, the defense automatically knows that there's like a 70% chance that this is going to be a pass play, and that just ruins everything. You're right. Blows my mind. Blows it.
Do you feel that Harbaugh, I know he just got an extension, is on the hot seat?
Honestly, Jamie, if he doesn't go further than divisional round this year, if the Ravens still can't get to the chip this year with Lamar and with that, and hopefully he stays for a long time. But how many years of your prime do you really have? You know what I mean? And if he doesn't get to at least a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP as his quarterback, after this year, man, I don't know. I think he's got to go, or it's going to be a really hard choice for the GM. They got to do something.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because it's like I feel that you guys have been getting stuck, and I know that this is the same thing. It's against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have been there, and they keep going back to Super Bowls and stuff like that. But you can't keep losing to the same guy over and over again, because I feel like it's you and
Steelers
and McDermott. Same situation, up in Buffalo, that these guys are seriously on the hot seat. And the truth of the matter is that it could be the two of you guys, because I think the Chiefs take a step backwards this year. It's going to be I think these two coaches going up against each other for the AFC Championship game. And it's like, I feel like that the winner goes on to the Super Bowl. The loser might be on the unemployment line.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I said that too. I said when the season ended that Harbaugh should be looked at as being on the hot seat, and on my TikTok, everyone gave me so much crap about it, saying that Harbaugh's a great coach and you don't know ball, you don't know what you're talking about. It's the same situation with Mike Tomlin over there in Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
What have they done? And he's still the coach? What are they like? Come on, you got to do something at some point. I know the Steelers have a tradition of never firing head coaches, but come on. At what point do you say to yourself, hey, maybe it's not the players. Maybe we need to make a coaching change?
So, anyways, real quick, Bobby, tell everybody where they can find you at.
Oh, okay. So I'm at on TikTok. I am Elite Sports Fan, all one word. I make sports content on there. That's my main platform. I enjoy it. If you guys want to hear me rant and get people mad in the comments, go ahead and take a peek over there. I think you'll find some stuff pretty interesting.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And if
Thanks
you're watching on our YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here because we are up against it. See y'all tomorrow, guys.
Later, guys.